response was, of course, one of the key concepts outlined in the Every Child Matters Green Paper. In Boundary Primary School's case, this is somewhat easier, as many of these other services are on the doorstep.
We have the City Learning Centre just behind me, and also we have educational diversity and integrated youth services in the building to my left. So to have all that expertise and all those skills that we can call upon is extremely beneficial to making sure that the child's day is like I say, is a productive one.
There's also a local Shore Start Centre that the school works with.
I mean, now that the Boundary Nursery is up and running with the 3-year-olds, we're obviously having to contemplate now the 3-hour educational session.
Right.
One of the key benefits of being so close to a Shore Start facility is it confirms the importance of multi-agency working, and it's almost like the realisation and acceptance that we don't need to be responsible for everything or feel we need to be responsible.
Research carried out in 2006 examined how well these multi-agency links are working across the country.
The question that was asked in both the primary and secondary surveys was around rating the accessibility to support services. For primary schools, health, culture and leisure services were rated most highly, and for secondary schools, police, leisure and culture services were rated as highest.
No, the majority of it.
Certainly at Collegiate High School, the link with the police appears to be working well. Danny Porter is a local police officer who comes in to chat with the children regularly.
Your perception of the police probably isn't too great, really, is it? Have any of you had dealings with the police before?
Just a couple of minor incidents.
Yeah.
However, it seems that schools are finding linking up with other services harder to do.
Interestingly, primary and secondary schools, there was only a fifth of primary and secondary schools that rated either social care or housing services as very good or excellent. Most commonly cited responses around the poor relationships with social services were around a lack of communication, which hindered that accessibility.
The difficulty is social services, like children's services, they're up to capacity. You know, they can't. There's only so many staff they can employ as social workers, and sometimes there's an element of frustration because I want somebody to come in and deal with Emma who's having significant problems, and yet nothing seems to happen. And it's not their fault, it's just about capacity, because we have some big issues in Blackpool.
The onus is on everybody, I think, in the children's services landscape in an area to really make those links with their colleagues in other services and to develop the arrangement that is going to work best to make it easiest for schools, for social care, to really work together for the children.
And as the implementation of the ECM agenda continues to roll out, attention has focused on the value of measuring its impact on educational outcomes via the amount of progress pupils make, as well as the levels they eventually achieve.
The progress a child makes and the rate of that progress is as important, if not more important, than the level they achieve. So you may get a child who isn't achieving their expected level at a key stage, but actually the progress they've made in that key stage is remarkable.
I think it's important that we do have the information with regard to how individual youngsters attain, how schools are able to get those youngsters to attain, particularly for schools who are very, very willing and able to take youngsters with special needs and statements on their particular role. Schools are prepared to give youngsters a second chance if they've got a history of poor behaviour or poor attendance.
At Goddard Park Primary School in Swindon, head teacher Mike Welsh is keen to make the most of data about educational progress.
Assessing children's progress is the core of this. It's no good doing something which is not going to support that progress. And so we're quite rigorous in the way we approach this.
The management team come together on a weekly basis to look at children's progress and what might be affecting this.
In our management meetings, what we would do, say if we're looking particularly at literacy, we would have all the data on hand as the children's performance, what level they were last year, what level they're at the moment, where they need to go. And then we would be discussing within the leadership team what we need to do to make the changes, to make things happen.
If we look, his PIPS prediction from reception was a 2C, can you see that? Mm-hmm. However, when we go through year 1, year 2, we're not achieving that. So what are the reasons why
It may be to do with what's actually happening in the curriculum, what's being taught. It may be something to do with behaviour. So in fact, then we would bring in our education welfare officer, our family support worker, to work with the parents to try and improve that.
Analysis of their data reaffirmed the strength of the link between educational success and parental engagement. So using the funding from their extended schools budget, they set up a community centre in the school.
This is Cafe Club, and Cafe Club is the opportunity for parents who have just dropped off children to school to actually come in, have a discussion with our family support worker and with other members of staff and so on.
Did you take that fishing thing?
We are now working on family learning with parents to encourage parents to gain the skills to listen to their child read and have confidence in being part of a child's education.
Engaging with families goes beyond parents. For example, Rose, who took a literacy course here to help support her grandson's learning.
How have I helped you?
Very much.
Very much. What do I help you do?
Sums.
Sums. And what else?
Sentences.
Right. And what he reads more than I do, actually. He tells me when I'm spelling things wrong. Don't you?
Yeah.
The children and the parents have the opportunity to do a session together, but they also have a tutor each, one for the adults, one for the children, to support their learning.
The school continues to track the success of their extended services with regular chats with the parents and carers.
Is there anything you'd really like us to be able to provide? Anything more that we can do that we're not doing at the moment?
There is a handwriting club here,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get him involved in that, but he won't do it. He more wants to go home and play football.
We can learn from what's been happening and also then maybe ways we can improve and what further support we can then give the parents, carers who've been doing that particular course.
A key plank of the government's policy to improve multi-agency links is the introduction of the Common Assessment Framework, or CAF. If a child is identified as needing extra support from outside agencies, the school can fill in a CAF form, put it on a central database, and all the relevant agencies can access the information for that child. Boundary Primary School in Blackpool is piloting the CAF system, which is run by their inclusion officer, Lavinia Anderson.
Once the CAF form is actually completed, it's then registered with the CAF organiser, so that if any other agency had worries or concerns about this particular family, it's on their database. Can you just give me an idea of what the concern is?
That he's not having any tea and he's certainly not been having any breakfast when he comes into school.
Right. What I would hope that the CAF would do for families is get the appropriate help at the right time to help with parents and families building things up together and liaising a lot stronger and knocking down these barriers that, that's school, we don't want school involved.
However, the CAF system is not without its critics. Along with issues around the reliability and security of the data, there are also concerns about the sharing of such information in schools.
The research that's been done on what children and young people think about all this information sharing is that they actually don't want teachers knowing so much about them. There have to be limits somewhere. It must be very embarrassing to walk into a classroom knowing that your teacher knows a great deal of personal information about you.
Despite concerns about various aspects of the Every Child Matters agenda, it seems that schools that are fully embracing it are showing it can help to improve standards. As it continues to roll out, the challenge is for those schools that are doing it well to transfer their knowledge. One model demonstrated is for the larger secondaries to share expertise with their feeder primary schools. For example, at St Ivo Secondary, they've set up a new post to help carry out this role.
We've had within the cluster the concept of a referral coordinator working very closely with the primary schools. The whole basis of this from the secondary point of view is that the earlier the intervention, the more likely you're going to be effective and successful working with young people.
I do this quite regularly. I would go into the primary schools and meet with the inclusion workers or with the heads or the Senkos, and that's quite an important part of my role, and sort of provide advice, information and guidance and help with any referrals or assessments that need to be done.
Because I'm losing 6.
Right. And then that way...
Because she oversees all the schools in the area, obviously we all have different needs for our families at our own school, and therefore Sarah's experience and knowledge is vast.
A class for two. The government supports these kinds of link-ups between schools and is keen to encourage the sharing of good practice as widely as possible.
The schools I've been to, and I've been to many where this is working really well, I think as I say, I think that they're the best ambassadors for other schools, and I think what we can do through TDA and others is help to demonstrate what's going on in the best schools and to disseminate that good practice.
But despite clear signals of government support, the future is not certain for the Every Child Matters agenda.
Our funding at the moment is coming out of extended schools. Now that's only until August 2008, and then I don't know what's going to happen about the funding, but I think it's really important that this role that we've established now over the last 4 years of an inclusion worker within the primary setting is embedded really into the mainstream, because I think early intervention work ultimately is going to lead to better outcomes for children and families.
While future funding of Every Child Matters remains a concern, there are some signs that it is already delivering on helping to improve educational outcomes. And lessons are beginning to emerge on what it's going to take to successfully roll this out across the country.
School leaders are saying to us it's a 5, 10, 15-year journey. So the first thing that school leaders want is time to build those relationships, to build those partnerships and get it right. The second thing that school leaders want is to have much broader ways in which their accountability might be measured on this agenda, so that we can actually begin to look at how do we really measure the impact the school is having on some of the most disadvantaged children in society. How do we measure their progress?
I think we need now to focus on the kind of cultural shift, that people just take it for granted that working together across schools and children's services is really the only way that we're going to help every child meet their educational potential, which is the objective that's really at the heart of Every Child Matters.